Nowadays, in most global markets, only 4 out of 5 charging sessions are working at the first trial. So we talk about 98 to 99% success rates for plug and charge versus less than 80% success rates for other cars and apps. Now onboard all European OEMs on plug and charge already. So every new car being released to the market will run on plug and charge.
So right now I'm at the booth of Hubject, and they are the biggest when it comes to roaming platform all across the world. And if you want to learn about what is plug and charge, how it's developing, and how it's going to resolve a lot of issues with the charging sessions, where a lot of charging sessions are failing right at the start, you're going to find a lot of insightful information in this video. So check out. So hi Christian.
Hi, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. It's a pleasure meeting you. And thank you so much for taking the time. And I've heard the name Hubject for the beginning. I started my career in e-mobility, which was in 2021. And today I finally get the chance to talk to you, and I want to understand what is Hubject, what sort of industry requirement you saw that you said, okay, this is a gap and we need to fill. When did you start, and what is the core mission?
Happy to share more insights on this. Let me start with myself. I'm Christian, having the pleasure of leading Hubject since a couple of years, being the CEO. And as Hubject, we started, frankly speaking, very early days of this industry. We already started in 2012. The topic we focused on very, very early was interoperability. What we have seen in 2012 is that probably there will be a couple of companies all around Europe operating charging stations and providing charging services. We expected at this time that probably we will have 50 to 100 companies doing this all around Europe. And we thought it would be a good idea to set up a marketplace, a B2B marketplace, to connect them all with each other, to make it easier, to make it more harmonized. Nowadays, of course, we know we were completely wrong in regards of market assumptions, because we have now thousands of companies in place only in Europe, and we have additional hundreds of companies in place all around in the world, which is very exciting to see. But it also confirms us in our fundamental belief that there needs to be an easier way how all these companies can work together, and that's exactly what we believe Hubject is solving by operating this B2B marketplace now on a bigger scale to connect all the companies with each other. Why so? Because in the end we believe charging should be as simple as possible for EV drivers, because only then they will increase their adoption and tell their neighbors and friends that driving electric vehicles is so great because charging is so seamless.
Exactly.
And to make it happen, we think collaboration is a key success factor. And therefore we are pushing all the companies, working with them jointly to make charging more and more seamless every day.
Perfect. So I hear a lot of transition that has happened from 2012
Definitely,
to today. Yeah. You have had your learn lessons, and could you share some insights? What was the biggest opening things that you saw? Okay, the way it has shifted in the last 4 or 5 years, what were the major trends that you saw, okay, and where do you see it's going to go in the coming future?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think, frankly speaking, one of the challenges we faced quite early, it's still a bit between us, and the challenge is trying to understand how the different perspectives of different companies from different industries can fit together in this industry, right? When we talk about the EV industry, of course, we talk about car manufacturers, OEMs, we talk about hardware manufacturers, we talk about software companies, but of course we talk about operators of charging infrastructure and providers of charging services. And they all have different backgrounds: energy, OEM, telecommunication, retailer, whatever you can imagine. And that's great. But on the other hand, that's also one of the core challenges, right? Because they all are used to do specific way of working in their industry. And now this needs to be united, and suddenly it's clashing because every industry is running things differently slightly. And therefore I think this fundamental understanding that we can only grow by working together is still sometimes a bit missed. On the other hand, we of course see that in the last years there were a lot of positive developments happening, right? We nowadays talk more about harmonized, standardized approaches. We are very happy that topic like ISO 15108 is now being regulated by the European Commission, because we believe that clarity is super important. And yes, frankly speaking, maybe it's not the best standard ever invented. Of course, we see some flaws here and there, but at least we now have clarity, right? And clarity means investment security, because it's now one direction we can follow. And then, of course, we can focus jointly on making it better and better. So this is super important from our point of view. And we would love to see some more clear directions happening. Of course, big topic is bi-directional charging and smart charging.
Exactly.
How shall this look like? And there are still a lot of discussions in place. What is the best approach? And we also believe we need to find a good approach, but probably we should start with one approach and then take it from there, not running with several approaches at the same time, because then it will be super challenging to really join forces and working together on this topic.
You have already answered so many questions that I was thinking about in advance, but it's really, really great. So it was really insightful answer. And you have a couple of things what I was thinking about, because I know I had work at a charger manufacturer. So the idea I realized later on was that everyone is working so scattered in the e-mobility industry. You have also mentioned that there were a lot of CPOs as well as a lot of players coming from different industry with different level of understanding. That's the CPO side of things. But also on the EV side of things, as a normal consumer, as a day-to-day consumer, there was also a huge challenge, and because the people were comparing every time it with a gasoline car. It should work like a gasoline car. And there was also a huge learning curve, which I think nowadays is better understood how the EV is working, what are the charging curves, under what temperature it works, how the grid operates, etc. So it has worked also. There were a lot of good developments on the consumer side of the things.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you're operating worldwide. And
Indeed, yeah.
I think those will be a really good key points to touch. How many charge points are you operating at the moment, and what are your core markets? Where are you expanding?
Great question. So to summarize this, we are now running globally with more than 1 million public charge points.
Wow.
Connected to our roaming platform. We are running with more than 4 million electric vehicles on plug and charge. And also our latest service we just announced, financial services for B2B companies, is also lifting up as well. And personally, I believe that most of the lessons learned we generated in Europe are also perfectly applicable to other markets as well, because a charging station is a charging station, electric vehicle is an electric vehicle. Of course, there are some minor differences on local level. Plug types can be different, regulation is partly different. But in the end, and just wanted to reconfirm what you said, it's all about the seamless charging experience, right? You mentioned it, a lot of EV drivers, especially when they are the first time EV drivers, are comparing fueling with charging. And of course for us, it's of course not comparable because we are saying it's completely different. But I think we should put ourselves more in the shoes of normal customers who really comparing this with each other and who really would like to have a very seamless experience. And you mentioned that the market is a bit split up in too many solutions, which maybe is also explaining a bit why we have challenges on the reliability of charging as well, right? We know nowadays in most global markets only 4 out of 5 charging sessions are working at the first trial. And for us it's normal. We know, okay, if it's not working, let's try it a second, the third or fifth time. Completely fine for us. Mass market customers, they will try it once and then we'll stop using it. And I think that's where we need to focus on more to make sure that charging is really as reliable as it should be. I'm not speaking of 100%, that would be technically anyway too complex, but at least it should work more often than it does nowadays. And of course it's quite complex to make this happen in a very fragmented ecosystem, right? You have different layers, hardware, software, OEMs, operators as mentioned. But still I believe this is exactly the direction we need to focus on to make it happen globally, to make sure that more and more people are adopting electric vehicles.
Perfect, thank you. And now I would like to talk about your solutions that you're offering. You mentioned slight phrase financial services, but can you give a short overview about the Hubject services that you're offering?
So as Hubject, we nowadays see us as a B2B marketplace for e-mobility companies. And of course, the most relevant service we're operating is we are the largest roaming platform in the world. That means we are connecting all the CPOs with all the MSPs in the market to make sure that they can handle charging transactions as efficiently as possible. On top of this, we're also providing additional services on top of roaming. Plug and charge is a very important one, which is exactly focusing on making charging easier, because plug and charge enables that customers are just plugging in and the rest is done automatically in the background. And I'm 100% sure that most EV drivers will never understand or never want to understand how does it work, but it should work like that, right? Plugging in, and the rest is done automatically, and that's what we're focusing on. And what we just learned in the last couple of years is that plug and charge is also a great fundament for providing a better customer experience as well. So today we announced a new service where we are providing tariff information and contract data on charging stations, right? You know, a lot of charging stations are running with screens. So why not welcoming the customer when they're going there with the logo of the service provider or with the tariff information they have booked, maybe a personal message as well. And we believe plug and charge is a very good fundament to exactly enable this. And last but not least, our latest service is financial services. What is this about? Again, it's a very, let's say, nitty-gritty service, but we believe it's very important. It's helping to improve the way companies are invoicing each other. Why is that a challenge? Not only because of fragmentation, but also because of very different maturity levels in the market, right? They are young, there are older companies in place, some of them have a background from other industries, some are just starting their business, and they all need to improve the way of sending and receiving invoices. And we see that this is right now a big need in the market. Why so? Because of so many companies, and of course because of a lot of regulation as well, right? We have specific requirements in sales tax handling in Europe, but not only in Europe. It's the same thing in the US, right? Every state is having different sales taxes, even on county level sometimes they can be different. And how to manage this when you're operating hundreds of thousands of charging stations and millions of EV drivers. And that's exactly where we are focusing on. We just received our own payment license as well, which helps us to push this service as a more strategic offering to the market as well. And
so what does payment service mean? Does it mean that the person still has to have their own app cards or maybe?
Exactly. So we as Hubject, we only see ourselves as a pure B2B company. So as much as we love to talk about customer experience, we are not offering any services to end customers, but we are helping B2B companies to provide a better experience to their customers. And the whole invoicing part, as I said, is a bit broken nowadays. It's very complex, it's very inefficient. So what we're doing is that charge point operators can easily create digital invoices to be sent to mobility service providers. They can approve it, they pay it automatically via Hubject, and then the money can be transferred to the charge point operator as well. So a very seamless invoicing process, because in the end, frankly speaking, it's not really creating a better customer experience if you spend a lot of time on getting your invoices paid. But of course, if you're not getting paid, you can't invest into new charging stations and offerings. And therefore, we believe that this is quite important to streamline this process so that companies can focus on, as I said, better services for customers.
So now for the future, I was thinking about, we have talked about the passenger car of the segments. I will be coming back to, I promise, for the plug and charge of the things, because you mentioned 400,000 vehicles. That's a very interesting part.
For me already.
For me it's also, because this is something I've never heard before. I thought plug and charge is still in the development stage. It's very new, maybe 200 cars, maybe 1,000 cars, maybe only one or two cars. But or perhaps we can talk about it right now, and then I will talk about truck charging later. So can you dive into the plug and charge, how it's working, and how do you ensure the compatibility of plug and charge with different vehicles? Because according to my understanding, it's a triangle, so it's going to work with you in between, but there should be on one side a vehicle, and on the other side it should be EV manufacturers, and perhaps also the CPMS in between as well.
Exactly. So, as you perfectly summarized, it's a triangle where companies need to collaborate with each other. And why we believe this is important is because it's about cybersecurity, right? We talk about soon a mass market environment, finally. That's very exciting. And we know from any other industry, as soon as the topic becomes relevant, there are additional challenges and risks in regards of cybersecurity. So we need to work on this. And right now, RFID cards and even apps are not super secure. So we need to move further, and we believe plug and charge could be exactly the good next step. And frankly speaking, we started focusing on plug and charge very early as well. So our first pilot we did on plug and charge was done in 2014. And the first OEM we onboarded to our plug and charge solution happened in 2018, 2019. And we again learned that things take their time in this industry, right? It's never easy to roll out a new service anytime soon. But on the other hand, I think that's exactly what Hubject has achieved several times. that we come with a very clear perspective and try to unite with as many participants as possible of this ecosystem to make sure that in the end we all generate a higher value together. It's not only about Hubject generating additional value, but it's really about bringing the industry to the next level. And very proud to say that especially my team has been able to now onboard all European OEMs on Plug and Charge already. So every new car being released to the market will run on Plug and Charge. We're working closely with nearly all US American manufacturers as well. And last but not least, we just onboarded the first Chinese OEM on Plug and Charge also, so that we see this becomes really a global standard. And that's very exciting for us. But of course, now we need also to focus on additional customer groups, right? Truck manufacturers is very important. Personally, I can't imagine that a truck driver is swiping an RFID card or is using a credit card or things like that, because it's not really fitting to the way of working. So in best case, the truck is just saying, this is the truck number 123, please start a charging session, which is exactly Plug and Charge enabling. So we're very positive also to run Plug and Charge on truck OEMs. And last but not least, we also see now that more and more hardware manufacturers are adopting Plug and Charge. Therefore, we also have set up a very specific certification scheme where we're helping hardware manufacturers to not only implement Plug and Charge, but also to test it. Because as you mentioned already, it's not that easy to make sure that everyone is speaking the same language and is understanding the same language. So therefore, we have set up a certification scheme for hardware manufacturers in our Hubject testing facility to make sure that we all are able to speak to each other.
That's amazing insight. And we see at our back the EX90. Is it also Plug and Charge? And what is special about this car? Is it standing? It looks really nice at Hubject.
It is indeed, no, it's a great car, and we're very happy to have this car here at our booth, supported by Volvo. The reason why we have the car here is that Volvo is also now offering an approach which is called multi-contract handling for Plug and Charge. What does it mean? Again, sounds a bit technical, and indeed it's very technical, but it enables that customers have the freedom of choice also for their Plug and Charge charging contract. Right? We know that this is very important, that EV drivers would like to choose this or that charging contract. And now Volvo is supporting this with their EX90 as well, that you can install any charging contract from any Plug and Charge ready service provider in the vehicle as well.
So let me try to understand in my understanding that is kind of limited, but anyways, what you're trying to say is that I'm not forced to buy only the charging solution from Volvo.
Exactly.
I could have my own charging apps, what I'm currently using, and I could use basically the same thing, and I will just use this car. Hopefully, one day I will be able to afford the EX90. But then
I will become your own service provider. You can set up a startup and become a service provider for charging services as well, and could run with Volvo cars.
That would be awesome. But coming to the last part, what would be the final obstacles? I mean, the obstacle will always come. That's why everybody improves, and that's why everybody will innovate further and further. But right now, what do you see the obstacles are that needs to be removed so that e-mobility as a whole could accelerate? And it could be from the development point of things, and it could be from the educational point. Just want to have you have so much expertise. I just want to have this.
The challenge is probably that there's not one thing to be changed that suddenly it's growing completely. I think it's probably a mixture of all these topics you just mentioned, right? On the one hand, I think we need more clarity, especially on the political side, and I think right now we are missing sometimes a bit the clarity. We had clear targets for 2035. Now we are starting to dilute them a bit, and frankly speaking, for me, especially being a European, I think this is definitely a challenge, because we see that now there's more and more global competition. So times where we all were united in peace are unfortunately a bit over right now. So we need to accept that we're living in a new reality, and the new reality is Europe against US against China. And to make this happen, I think we need to unite as a European market as well.
Indeed.
And this requires very clear political signals on EV adoption. If you're now starting to dilute these messages, it won't help us at all, because taking into account how many years it took us to get here with battery electric mobility, I can't foresee that this will happen anytime soon with hydrogen or e-fuels, right? Because the level of industrialization is so much more behind battery electric mobility that we will just get lost in complexity and need to split up investments, and that will probably slow us down against global competition. That's one thing. Yes, education is a topic, right? We talk about quite often very technical solutions, and that's something I think we all need to better understand. And last but not least, I think what we also need to highlight more often is, and I know it sounds a bit high level, but it's super important, is collaboration. And I don't want to take this picture now of we need to bake the cake and make it grow, and then we can start cutting it, and not before. But I still see this quite often that we focus too much on competition without understanding that we need to work jointly on this. And we did today as Hubject a big announcement for us where we announced together with two competitors of Hubject plug and charge interoperability. We believe plug and charge is so great that also other companies should be able to provide services, and it still works with Hubject and vice versa, right? So that companies are not facing any login effect or maybe feel unwell because there's only one choice to be made. We believe it should be a very open market environment as well. We believe it so much that we therefore support our competitors to work with us instead of insisting on our market position, because that will very probably slow down a bit the adoption of plug and charge. And I would love to see this more often in other areas of the industry as well.
That's a really noble way to put it, and I think it's more like releasing the patents, and then so that everyone can join hands and really work together instead of being fragmented, everybody competing for every single thing. This way, I think will. If I go back to the point what you mentioned, out of every 5 charging sessions, one is failing because of authorization issues or due to certain issues. And if plug-in charge could help reduce or actually eliminate in the future, hopefully, that's a huge improvement and everybody wins. It could be from OEMs, it could be truck OEM, it could be charger manufacturer, or it could be your competition and Hubject as well. Everybody wins, and most especially the customer, because the customer knows that the solution he bought and he paid a hefty amount is going to work.
Exactly. We only can grow by joining forces and talking about reliability. We already know this from hundreds of thousands and millions of charging transactions via plug and charge, that the reliability level is so much higher. So we talk about 98 to 99% success rates for plug and charge versus less than 80% success rates for other cars and apps. Of course, the reason is also clear, because a lot of companies invest into more modern software and hardware when they are running plug and charge. But still, it's a good signal to see that this is really working out, right? And it's proving us as an industry that we're on the right track.
That was a very high point to end the interview, I would say. The numbers you have mentioned really show the picture. What is the difference between plug and charge and normal conventional? And you have already explained how much you have put your efforts into plug and charge and making where it is right now. So,
but very important, it's not us, not me, it's the whole Hubject team, right? Yeah, we really have great people supporting me every day on making this happen, and very proud of my team.
100%. It's always a team effort.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Christian.
Thank you very
nice
much.
to meet you. Take
Thank
care.
you for the interview.